Okay, with all that being said, wait, let's uh let's get her going, hey? So first off, I guess, welcome everybody. This is going to be a stream with Colorado Hughes. Colorado has been a member of TOTK for well over a year now, a year and a few months. He's worked his way up into becoming an inner circle member. He also does a lot of coding and whatnot for TOTK2 with the indicators and stuff. So he's a very valued member of TOTK and a good buddy of mine. I've known him before TOTK even. So highly respect this guy and what he has to say. And I'm glad that we were able to bring him on for today's stream. So before we get going, Kev, why don't you just kind of do a quick introduction of yourself and kind of your trading experience, things like that, just so people can kind of get to know you a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for the introduction. You're gonna make me cry here. So I have been trading on and off for probably 10 years at this point. Just the the usual route, right? Just starting off with basic retail concepts, going through baby pips and a bunch of other discords and groups and all that. I know we met in Sonar Labs probably what 3 years ago now, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. A couple years for sure.
Yeah, but started off just doing all that retail logic, just not having any success and all that until I think both of us kind of stumbled across ICT around the same time. Again, 3 4 years ago. Just started digging into that and started taking trading a bit more seriously until year and a half ago, maybe you joined TUTK and just kept bugging me about finally getting into it. Um,
Yeah,
Once I joined, I know I've said it before, just kicked my learning into high gear. I just started seeing stuff that I'd never seen before and started learning these concepts at a faster rate and learning the importance of time specifically in my trading. And I've just been running with that ever since. TUTK has taken me to the point where I a year and a half ago I just didn't know anything, and now I've got a few different funded accounts that I'm playing with, and just trying to work my way up to making this a full time thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you only joined a month after me, so it didn't take me long to get you in here. But yeah, as soon as I joined TOTK, I just knew that it was going to be a great place. So great. So you've been dabbling for almost a decade now, kind of like recreational at first, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just
Yeah.
a hobby that a buddy of mine got me into, and I never really took it super seriously. Just mostly gambling, really.
Was that Me So High
Yes, it
that got you
was.
into it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Good buddy of mine that we went to high school together, so he started getting into it probably early on when he was in college, and I started getting into it via him once I moved out to Colorado, and that would have been about 10 years ago, a little more. Oh, fuck, I've been out here for almost 15 years now. Time flies.
Absolutely, it does. All right. Well, I think that gives a pretty good background for everyone. And everyone kind of knows you a little better. And now we can get into the stream. If you want to start recording your screen, we can go over some of the topics of today. I think it's going to be on parent candles, parent cycles, and just kind of your approach to those two concepts and how they play in your trading plan.
Yep,
Right?
that is correct. I'm gonna share my
Sounds
screen real quick and just make sure everybody can see it. And if you can, like I said, we're both recording, so this will be up on WAP for everyone, and I'll be adding it to my YouTube as well. So, like
sweet. I'm good.
Brady alluded
See
to,
it.
I want to be going over parent cycles, parent candles. They're really one and the same, just two different ways of looking at things, as well as time. Specifically, I talk a lot about XX45 and XX15, and I just want to get into why that's important, why that's a big part of my trading plan. And I know a lot of you, or a few of you at least, have dug into that as well and have started to see that be a very powerful half-hour time window. And we can just kind of go into why that is an important time window. So to start off, let's go with that. The importance of that time window, the 45 to 15. What we're looking at here is just a quick little schematic of open, high, low, close dynamics in terms of how a candle forms. Over here you've got a representation of how that would look as candlesticks and how it might look just over time as you're looking at a couple of hours form. So the 45 to 15 time window, that is very important because it is effectively the handshake between two different hours, right? The end of 1 hour into the beginning of the next. So over the course of an hour, you're kind of seeing, say, 9 o'clock, the candle will open up in a little bit of a range, form a low, and then start expanding higher through the half-hour mark of that candle, where you often get consolidation, where price just kind of pauses and gathers more gas for the second leg up into the end of the hour, where around 40 minutes, 45 minutes of the hour, it starts coming back down and forming that upper wick of the candle. And that's where your 45 to 15 window starts. What you like to see is to start that next hour, you move higher and take out the high of that old candle with SMT, and then start moving lower throughout the rest of the next hour. That's how you get your open, high, low, close dynamics kind of playing out. You'll get that SMT forming across that hour mark from one side of the hour to the next within that 40 or that half hour window from 45 to 15. And then
Can,
you'll, oh, sorry, go ahead, Bertie.
I was going to say, can you, I imagine you're probably going to get there, but can you talk a little bit about where those three internal dynamics are going to form?
Yeah, that's actually where I was about to head into next here.
All right.
So the internal dynamics we're talking about here are turtle soup, order block slash fair value gap, and breaker slash OTE. Especially, I mean, always paired with SMT. That is how a reversal is going to form every time. What you'll see is your turtle soup will form above the high of that previous candle, which is where you'll also get your SMT. From that turtle soup, you'll get a turn back down, which will create somewhere in here an order block or a fair value gap, or often both of them. You'll move a little bit lower, and then you'll have your breaker right here. Then what you often want to look for is a return up into that breaker or into that order block slash fair value gap, which most times will also fall into that OTE window that ICT talks about. That is I would say, what do you say, Bertie? Like 90% of the time, that is what you will get on a lower time frame when you have that 15-minute SMT forming. You'll jump down and you'll see those dynamics playing out.
Yeah, essentially, they're like snowflakes, right? They all look kind of different. Sometimes you won't get the OTE because it's all efficient up top, but other times you will get the OTE, and the OTE is always going to be turtle soup as well, for those wondering. Um, and all three of these entries are going to form within the wick of that 15-minute candle.
That's correct. And effectively, what we're looking at here is trying to capture that window, or really anywhere inside the wick of this next candle. But the turtle soup will form up in here, then you'll get your order block, fair value gap, and breaker in this area here. So any kind of entry you can find in that wick is going to position you very well to ride out the rest of the next hour. So that's the whole reason behind this indicator down here that I see you asking about it in chat, Reggie. That is the extended macro indicator that I have. It is in the indicator updates channel, but that marks out that specific 45 to 15 minute window for a few different hours throughout the day. And that is the window that you're going to want to be looking for your SMT to be playing out in, to then capture this wick and ride out the remaining hour. So moving on from that, that's just the basic idea behind using the time for this concept.
Somebody asked what time frames are those Power 3 wicks usually formed?
They will form on really any time frame. It's all fractal, but specifically what I look for personally is for 15 minutes. These two candles would be two 15-minute candles, for example. I like to work down from a few different time frames. I like to look at 12-hour, I like to look at 6-hour, 4-hour, 15-minute, 5-minute, and honestly, I rarely go down to 1 minute these days. I find that there's a lot of noise down there. You'll find SMT everywhere. 15-minute is the lowest I will go when I'm looking for SMT. And then you can write out that hour from there. No, these macros do not shift on any other criteria. This is very specifically looking for that handshake between two different hours to start, so that 45-minute to 15-minute in the next hour window, that is static. You'll see different characteristics based around the different news events that are going on, but that is the specific window always that I like to look for. Okay. Before we move on, are there any other questions around these 15-minute time windows? Half-hour time windows, rather.
Do you require 1 minute CSD to confirm 15-minute consecutive candle SMT?
I will go down to check for it, but a lot of times I will jump right in on the 15-minute, just by nature of seeing these time windows play out so often. I'll be pretty confident in them if I see them taking out a previous high. I'll go down to 5-minute a lot of times, but 1 minute I tend to get lost in the noise, and I don't like getting down there and just seeing so many different things that I confuse myself. That is just me. I know, Brady, you like going down to 1 minute. I know a lot of people like going down to 1 minute, but for me, 15-minute and 5-minute is often enough.
Yeah. So for me with the 1 minute, I guess I require, after SMT, I need to see what I like to call institutional sponsorship. And that's usually going to be in the form of true CSD, followed by obvious expansion, right? So I want to see bearish PD arrays. If we're bullish, I want to see bearish PD arrays begin to be disrespected and used as support. I want to see price printing bullish PD arrays and respecting them. After the SMT, there is one instance where I will enter on SMT, and that is, since I trade a 3-candle model, I'll enter on SMT if there is consecutive candle SMT on candle number 3. I can get more into that in a different stream, but I talked about it in my last stream, I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and this
move on.
is,
Yeah.
and the way I operate is, I mean, it's effectively the same thing as a 3-candle model, just in a different lens, right? I mean, we're all largely trading the same kind of order flow, same kind of model. We're all looking for market maker models, just using different tools to get there, but we're largely always looking for the same thing.
Yeah, we all have different ways of filtering. That's what a model is to me, is it's a way to filter good trades and bad trades.
Yep, that's correct. All right, so I'm going to shut that down there and start going into some examples. So I said I wanted to get into parent cycles, inside cycles, parent candles, all that stuff. As it turns out, literally every day this past week had an example of how I like to use these parent cycles and how I look at them as ways to enter and find areas of liquidity, pools of liquidity, targets, things like that. So we're going to go down here to the 15-minute candles, and we're going to start with Friday and go from there and work backwards. So this is my model. This is what I look for every day. Starting over here, this is a parent candle or parent cycle, inside cycle, right? You have this 90-minute cycle right here that trades entirely within this 90-minute cycle here. It hasn't taken out the low, it hasn't taken out the high. That is a quick and easy visual way to see that this is all consolidation. And what do we know about consolidation? If it's going to go anywhere, we need some kind of form of manipulation. If we're looking for a reversal, for example, it's not going to consolidate and then immediately shoot up. It's going to consolidate and then manipulate lower and then start moving higher. So that is what I see when my ears perk up. I see that and I start thinking, okay, is this going to be a reversal? Is this going to be a continuation? What are we looking at here? So at this point I am waiting. I'm setting alerts at the low, I'm setting alerts at the high, and I'm looking for some kind of manipulation lower at a key time to then move higher. In this case, this was a big news day. See, we had that wick on both sides at 8:30. So that was NFP, so I'm waiting until after that to see what we get. After we get NFP, we see that over here, this was SMT with NQ. NASDAQ did not take out this low, but ES did. And when did it do it? In that key time between 9:45 and 10:15, the changeover from 9 o'clock hour to 10 o'clock hour. Specifically, 9:45 to 10:15 is my favorite time to look for this sort of thing to play out, because that is just the big injection of volatility for the day that is likely to set the tone for the entire day to then move higher. So what I look for in this instance in terms of a target, once you've got your SMT in here, you would go down to your lower time frame and start looking for certain things to enter, right? You would look for your breaker, your um, inverted fair value gaps, whatever you like to use for your lower time frame model. You would look for it somewhere within this wick. And there is a high probability that it is going to run back up and hit the opposite side of that parent range. It will run the low, come back to the high. You can take off partials at midway if you want to. That is a near guarantee that it's going to hit halfway. So you can take partials off there, you can ride it to the other end, or you can use some of the other methods that I know we've talked about in other streams or in chat of projecting out and seeing where you think price might want to go, using standard deviations or looking at equilibrium of areas of consolidation and projecting out from that. For example, here we had this reversal. We didn't get our breaker until up here. You could enter right there once you get the breaker and you come back down into this little inversion and ride it a little bit higher throughout the rest of the day. I personally entered somewhere around here in this wick. Like I said, I see that on M15 and I'm just in. I'm ready to go. It's always safer to wait. I like to be a little aggressive and get in like that, but if you're just learning how to use these cycles, I highly recommend waiting, looking on lower time frames for your breaker, your inverted fair value gap, order block, whatever you like to enter on, until you start seeing this play out more and more, and you're just comfortable with it, that you see it, and you're trusting it, right? So that's an example from the 5th. Let's go back again another day and look at the 4th, and you'll see a bearish example of the same thing. In this case, the SMT was with the previous day's high. ES took out this high, Nasdaq did not, and again it happened in a 45-minute to 15-minute time window. Zooming in a little bit, it's the same parent cycle setup. You had this cycle here, trading entirely inside this one here. So you see that, you know you have liquidity above, you know you have liquidity below. You know that once this is wiped out, there's a good chance it's going to come back down and take out the other side. In this case, you had that move higher and then an immediate push back down, right? You had your CSD in there with your fair value gap, and it just kept on running. You could have entered right there, just rode it to the low here, or all the way down to the bottom of London here. And coincidentally on this day, once we get down here, look at where the low happened. Right there, again, in that 15-minute time frame, the 45 to 15. That's when the low set in, and we started leveling out a little bit. The changeover from 1 hour to the next is a super important time to be looking to see whether we're going to be continuing higher or reversing and getting a candle in the other direction.
So I got a question here.
Yep.
From CS. How do you place your stop loss when trading the soup on 15 minutes? I told him just through lower time frame confirmation, or once you see the 15-minute candle flip bearish to bullish for bullish examples, which is just a true CSD. But I want to get your thoughts on it.
Yep, that's correct. I'll look on lower time frame to see if there's something, for example, in that area there, if there's a order block or something like that on a lower time frame that I can go above, or if I'm strictly doing the 50-minute time frame, I'll just put it above the soup here and ride it lower.
Yeah, if you're bearish and you get that proper open high candle with SMT, as soon as that candle goes from green to red or bullish to bearish, you can just enter because that true CSD is forming. And oftentimes you're trading a higher time frame key level anyway. So like a lot of the time, you're going to have that 15-minute turtle soup column forming inside of a 15-minute PD array. So to start, you should, if you're trading soups, you should measure your stop loss based on the PD array that you're entering in, not trying to just nab the wick and put your stop loss immediately there, because you are sometimes going to get another, institutional swing point forming and it may not be ready. So if you have a higher time frame entry, have a higher time frame stop loss.
Yep, exactly.
Unless you want to go down to a lower time frame and trade like a 5-minute CSD or a 5-minute market structure shift, things like that. So, but oftentimes you're going to get a 5-minute CSD, and on the 1 minute, it's going to be a 1-minute market structure shift with a breaker. It's all fractal, right? So whatever kind of tickles your fancy, you can do. But that's my explanation. Yep. Sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. You're making a good point here that the important part is the logic for why something should happen, right? Like, for example, my logic is we're running that high of the parent cycle, we should be moving lower. That is the important part. How you choose to enter, that's secondary. That is the least important part of the entire process. Like you said, you could enter on a lower time frame with a 5-minute CSD. You could just throw it on right here on M15. It is the least important part of things. The most important part is why should it go back down. So That is a bearish example of how this would work out on the 4th. I'm going to keep going back through the week here. We're going to go back to the 3rd, and we'll have another bullish example. Right here, the SMT occurred with Asia low. Nasdaq took out the Asia low. ES did not, but it happened right there in a 45-minute to 15-minute window. Our favorite window that we like to look for. Just any significant reversal is going to be happening in that time window. We've got a much more clear parent cycle here. You can see there's plenty of space between the high, plenty of space between the low here. And we have price coming back down, taking out that cycle low, forming SMT, and then moving higher in that half-hour window that we like to look for. This one would have been a little bit trickier. It just clearly moves higher, doesn't give you much room to get into if you're just staring at the 15-minute. You would have to just trust this fair value gap here, but if you go on a lower time frame, you're going to be seeing a breaker or order block or something like that down there that you can start to trust. This would have been a place you could have gotten in when we come back down into this fair value gap, this BISI, and start moving higher. We get our order block and then really start going. If you were sticking to the 15-minute time frame, that's what you would have been looking for, the test of this right here.
And I believe you'll see SMT in that swing.
Right
That's
here.
what 10:30. There is 10:30 within that order block, right?
This
Or
is
the one
15, and then this is
okay.
30.
Yeah, there's SMT there on YM. I believe YM took that low. If
That,
I'm not
that
mistaken.
I believe that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I have a question for you though. This is just from me directly. So you trade open high low close and open low high close, and you do use true opening. You use opening times of those candles in order to add them into your analysis for confluence, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Do you do the same? So obviously, a 90-minute cycle, a 30-minute cycle, a 10-minute cycle has an open high low close as well. Do you use opening prices for cycles and count them as true CSD or as fair value?
I do not look at them, but you're correct. That is a way you can look at them. Um, in particular, the equilibrium of cycles is very important. So is the
Uh-huh.
open, the high, the low, the close, as you said. But oftentimes you will see price come back down to equilibrium of a cycle. Like right here, actually, here's an example. If we're looking at this cycle and drawing it out to the future, that's where price came back down to in the BISI here. It didn't come back down to it because there's a BISI here. It came back down here because that's equilibrium of that cycle. That is fair value of that cycle. It was balancing out and then moving higher for the rest of the day. Similarly with highs and lows of these cycles, you want to see them act as support and resistance as price gets moving higher and lower. Um, Again, I don't particularly look at them myself. I don't draw them out like this, for example, but they are very important to keep in mind in terms of true CSD, as you said.
Perfect.
So, moving on here, I'm going to go back to the second. And the second is, I loved this day. I think we all did. I think we all banked on it. This was the cleanest day I've seen in a long time. Um, right here, again, we've got our parent cycle. Everything's trading within here. We move lower, and we get SMT with NQ down here, which would have been at the previous day's low. And that happens right there at 7:45 to 8:15. I particularly liked this day because it fractalized very, very well. not only did you have that parent cycle here, but you had this very clean soup at that low. And this is the three candle model that Brady you like, right? It came down through that low as a open low candle and closed strongly right above. You see that, and you know that things are likely to just go without looking back. So oops, not only did you have your parent cycle playing out, but you had that three candle model right there. So you had those two things stacked in your favor, telling you that it was ready to go for the rest of the day.
I think this is a 4 hour, three candle model too. And you're just seeing a 15-minute fractal at the reversal, which is super cool to see.
Yep, exactly. That is exactly how it played out. You're right. So that's when you know that it's going to be a super clean move, and it played out very cleanly for the rest of the day, right? You had your soup, which I think I have it marked out over here. There it is. You had your turtle soup. You had your order block forming inside a fair value gap, which then created this breaker right here. So those are the internal dynamics we were talking about. You have your turtle soup, which creates your order block and fair value gap, which makes the breaker. And if we were to go down even further to 1 minute, it fractalizes even further. Down here in 1 minute, you've got that turtle soup, which creates this fair value gap with an order block inside it, which makes this the breaker, which we come back down to and test, and then it starts moving. So these internal dynamics, they fractalize all the way down. You see it on the 15 minute, you're going to see it on the 1 minute. So it's something to keep in mind when you're trying to find your entry, and it's something that I've said before many times, that if you see the SMT on 15 minute and you see your potential breaker forming in the future, there is a good chance that if you go down to 1 minute, 5 minute, just any lower time frame, you're going to have a setup just waiting for you, sitting in your lab.
Could you mark out the 745 opening price?
Yes, I could. That is, the
Is
opening
that the time?
price.
That's the time when the soup formed, right? Yeah.
Yep,
Right in line.
yep,
Right in line with the swing of the breaker.
that is
745
correct.
creates the consolidation. So that's how you boost your probability of your three candle model. If you have a true CSD in line with your PD arrays, so it's you see how we trade through it with a BISI, that's how you can imply breakers using true CSD.
Yep, that is a very powerful skill to hone if you can predict these breakers, 15, 20, 30 minutes before they even happen.
Absolutely.
Turn off replay here. Okay,
Got some more sauce for us. This is great.
all right. Then now we're going back to the last 15-minute example here. We are back on Monday and we've seen this play out every day this week. Um, I want to clarify, you're not going to see these parent cycles play like this every day. This week just happened to be a great example of it all. Often I'll see it probably 2 or 3 times a week, which is plenty. So, once again, and Monday was a little bit sloppy, we have our parent cycle right here with our inside cycle. We run the high, but we fail to really break above it. We run back down to the low, and we get that big candle below. So that's what I like to see. I want to see enough space created below the parent cycle that we can have the SMR form below the cycle. I don't like to see a little wick and then push back down. That's often not enough in my experience. So once you get that break below the parent cycle, you're just waiting. You want to see if you get that SMT on 15 minutes, which we did right here with this candle at 10:45 to 11:15. Then we start moving higher. I say it was sloppy because we didn't really get a whole lot on 15 minutes in terms of the internal dynamics we like to see. You get that push higher, you get this, that would have been your turtle soup, you get this. I like to consider this, I know it's the wrong terminology, but I like to consider it a implied fair value gap, almost, because wicks are gaps, and you've got a gap on this side, then a wick on this side. To me, that is a gap in there, which we get an order block in, and then a move higher to attack the opposite end of the range. On a lower time frame, on 1 minute for example, this wick here, you're going to see a breaker in there. You're going to see your internal dynamics there as well. You're going to have your turtle soup, your fair value gap, and then your order block, and then your move higher. So the key to putting all this together is that I've been saying over and over, it's fractal. That counts on going lower, but it also counts on going higher. You've got these half-hour cycles within the 90 minutes. You've got 10-minute cycles within the half hours. But if we take everything that we've gone through from the end of the week back to the first of the week and zoom out and look at everything from a higher perspective, what you'll see is this cycle here, the PM cycle on Friday. If you draw that out, that was actually a parent cycle to that first 270-minute cycle, London cycle, on Monday. Let's turn that on. So you've got this as a parent cycle low here, and then we attack EQ. That's not enough, but like I said, you can use EQ as an exit. There's a high probability we're getting back to EQ, even if you're wrong. But once we come back down, what do we get here? What we were just talking about. You've got the SMT here with the previous day, and then we finally get the juice we need right here on that very clean Tuesday to attack the opposite end of the larger parent cycle that was created on Friday. So you can look at these and use them as a way to create a map throughout the entire week if you get a cycle like this. I mean, once you got this SMT, you knew that it was coming all the way up here, and that was a massive move.
Monday range models are huge. Tuesday is probably one of my favorite days to trade because you could just use Monday's range. It happens so often. You're going to see SMT at Monday's low or Monday's high, depending if you're bullish or bearish.
Yep.
There's like me and Hughes went through, like, we found some data on Twitter. I believe it was Alex Tilas. He posted some data about Mondays, and like, we all used to hate Monday high and low of the week, but you'd be shocked at how much of the market share that is occupied by Mondays forming the higher low of the week on NASDAQ. It was like above 70% probability in the past five to 10 years, or past few years at least, that Monday forms the higher low of the week.
Yep, and I've found that with the same data that I've been crunching on ES. For those of you that don't know, I have about 15 years worth of minute by minute data for ES that I've been kind of working on crunching with some Python and figuring out some stats and probabilities. And what I've found is that it's around, I don't know, 75% chance that Monday is the high or the low of the week.
And if that's the case, then you can, if you have a Monday or Tuesday, if you have a Monday low of the week with SMT on Tuesday, good chance you're going to have a trending week, which is what we had this week.
Yep.
It's just the profile playing out. If you have a Tuesday or Monday high or low of the week, you're going to trend until at least Thursday.
And that's exactly what we had play out. We really just trended for the entire week.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that Brady and I had talked about. And this is a little bit of sauce that I wasn't planning on throwing into this video. But remember how we were talking about projecting um, targets using consolidations?
Yeah. I threw it in my last stream, so don't worry about spreading it. You can share it.
I'll just throw it in here as well.
Go for it.
I alluded to it earlier anyway. We had this consolidation right in here on Tuesday, Wednesday. If we know that consolidations often happen at equilibrium of a range, of a dealing range, why not use consolidations like that as a way of projecting where price might go? So we know we had our very clean reversal here, and we have our consolidation here. What if we slap equilibrium on that consolidation? What do we get? A clean projection as to where price was going to go for the rest of the week, almost to the tick. So as early as Tuesday, we could have predicted that the high was going to be right up here at 56.25 and just known that we were going to be trending for the rest of the week. Pair that with what I was showing you throughout the week with the parent cycles and knowing when liquidity is being run out, and all of a sudden you have a very clear process to follow of, okay, I don't want to enter until the low of this cycle is taken out because I know that we are attacking this specific high.
Can you throw the same fib fractalized on the end of the consolidation low? You know what I'm talking about.
Right here.
Yeah, to the next consolidation.
Yep, that's right. We were talking
About
about that as well.
yeah,
And then it lines up almost exactly.
yeah.
So these are ways that you can use these time cycles to find entries and then these projections to figure out where price might go. Even right here, we can fractalize that. Boom. You have that
So it
consolidation.
yeah. So it projects not only targets, but it also projects future consolidations, guys. Right?
Yep.
Because a draw usually is going to be met, and then we get thrown into consolidation because there isn't enough liquidity now. So the draw has been met. We've used a ton of liquidity to get to a certain draw. Now price has to go into liquidity generation or consolidation. And that is when you're going to see another consolidation form, and then you're just going to continue the trend until you see a change in the state of delivery in the other direction.
Yep. And I will also throw in that you could anticipate that this, for example, was a consolidation and not a potential reversal because there hasn't really been a significant liquidity pool taken, right? Like it's not going to reverse in the middle of this range. It's going to be attacking this high at the very least. So if you know that it's not going to necessarily reverse out of here and it wants to attack this high, you can assume that's a consolidation, throw on your projection, and now you know, okay, it's likely going all the way up here and not reversing straight from here. Earl, you're asking if I would hold overnight for a projection like this. Most prop firms don't let you hold overnight. Um, on say DarwinX or a personal account, yes, I would hold overnight. I'm currently holding a trade in DarwinX that I got in, I think, on Tuesday, and I'm aiming even higher than this. But yes, this kind of projection I would hold on for.
So I have another question for you, and
Yes.
then we'll get to CS trades question. Um, you've been studying these time cycles for quite some time now, well over a year and a half, um, I would say, and you've found a very solid approach towards trading them. Now, is there any doubt in your mind that this is how the market and the algorithm books these time-based liquidity levels? Is there any doubt in your mind?
No doubt whatsoever. I have seen these specific windows play out so many times at this point, and I highly recommend that you don't take my word for it. Go back and look at these 45 to 15 time windows. Look at how price acts when you get SMT in those time windows. Look at how price acts when you get a movement below that liquidity level in those time windows. It's a it's a combination of the two. It's not just these cycles, but it's when they play out.
Fantastic. CS asked. uh, I knew this question was coming. Could you use this same concept but on the time axis? So
Uh,
I assume you'd have to do 50% of the just thinking through to my head. You'd have to use 50% of essentially the time distortion and then
so
projecting exit times like, essentially is what he's getting at for
so
when a draw is going to be delivered.
to answer that question, I'm just gonna pop this back up. There is a reason why I drew consolidation going through the half hour mark of each of these hours. Because, yes, consolidations occur at 50% of everything. You are going to very often find your expansion and then consolidation through the half hour. Expansion, then consolidation. And it is, again, fractal. If you wanted to expand this to a 4 hour candle, for example, you know that consolidations happen at 50% of everything. You know that consolidations happen during lunch. What is the 50% point of the 10 a.m. 4 hour candle? Noon, lunchtime, when consolidations happen. And to the same point, as far as these um, 50-minute mark for reversals go, if you're looking at a 4 hour candle, again, expand that to a larger time frame. Look at, if you're looking at 10 o'clock, look at 11, example 11:15 for a potential reversal on a larger time frame.
I'm going to find an example here. You just keep on. If you have any more examples, just keep going. I'll figure something out here for if people don't understand what he was asking.
Okay, let's see if I can dig one up here, because I don't have any other examples on hand. Uh, well, here's an example of what I was talking about on a 4 hour scale. There's noon right there. And look at how once noon hits, we just go into consolidation until 1 o'clock. And then we start moving again. That is your consolidation through 50% of time. We have right here, this actually looks like a very good example on a 4 hour scale. Let's take our fib time zone, start at 10, and draw that out to 2. That is your 4 hour candle. Right here, you've got your reversal in that magic window of 9:45 to 10:15. We move higher. We consolidate a little bit through that quarter mark, that hour mark, move higher, consolidate again through noon, then move higher through 1 o'clock until we close out the candle. So that was a very good question, Colin. Thank you for bringing that up. That is a very significant thing to keep an eye out for. So therefore, if consolidation were to not occur at noon, being midway of a 4-hour candle, it may indicate a larger fractal such as a 6-hour range playing out. That is correct. So I don't know if you have any examples on hand, Brady, but those 5 that I went through, that is what I came prepared with. So unless you have any examples or anything you want to get into, might be a good time for a question and answer here.
I think that covers most of it from my end. Does anyone else have any questions whatsoever?
I will throw an example in here real quick, just I'll find one. I know I was talking about parent cycles a lot, but just in the interest of showing what a parent candle looks like. Uh, an apparent candle is really just, it's going to be the same thing as a parent cycle. They're going to be showing up together a lot. So I said I'd like to start on 12 hour. So here is a 12-hour example. That right there is a parent candle. You have this whole 12-hour candle trading inside this whole 12-hour candle. You have that right there, this 12-hour candle trading inside this 12-hour candle. We take out the low, we get our little extra one here, that's going to be SMT, and then we attack the other side. So it's the same concept with candles as it is with cycles. Cycles just make it easier to see these candles forming on a lower time frame. And that's how that would look on the 15-minute. And throw the cycles on just to have that laid over. And those are the examples we were talking about earlier. That's your daily SMT. There was your final push to run higher to the high here of that whole parent cycle, which was a whole day. Would I share my indicator settings if they are any different from default? Mac trades, my settings are purely default. What time do I use for the daily candle? 1800 or midnight? I do not use midnight. I use the actual open of the daily candle, so 1800 of the previous day.
Very, very good stream. Wow. Well, if there's nothing else, I don't think we missed any questions. Do you utilize cycle projections?
I do not. The projections I use are really what I just showed you, using the 50% mark placed on an area of consolidation, or I will use the same method that guys like Tennis Shoe uses, using standard deviations off of a breaker.
Yeah.
Which, just to show an example of that for some of the new people, you have this breaker leg right here. What you would do is take the manipulation leg that takes out the low and project off of that. You would draw from the low to the high and use these standard deviations: 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 5, and 5.5. And oftentimes you'll see them line up again with areas I would be taking off anyway. Like, it is not random that two standard deviations lines up exactly with the high of that parent candle.
Can you pull it the high from the London session high, just before London session?
Right up
That
there.
swing there. Yeah, look at, yeah, 2.5 right around Friday's high.
Yep. Which, again, 1.5 right here, that would have been the parent cycle right there. Target parent cycle, and then we immediately go into consolidation.
Yeah. Crazy. Um, all right, man. Well, I think this was super insightful. You did not disappoint. You did good for your first stream, big time. So
No, I'm glad to finally get one in here. I know I've been pushing it off for a while.
it ain't gonna be the last one either. I'm gonna be knocking on your door soon.
I did it once, so now
Um,
the floodgates are open.
oh yeah, you're fucked now. Okay, guys. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, yeah, let us know what you guys thought of the stream in the chat. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, and as you guys are digging into this, and now that I've kind of gone through an explanation of how I look at this stuff, throw some examples into chat. Dig through some past data, see if you start seeing it. Show me what you're seeing. I would love to see these examples.
Do you have any homework to assign to the students?
Literally what I just said. Go back through
Yeah.
these. Go back through these cycles. Find these parent cycles, these parent candles. Look for SMT in those specific half-hour time windows of the crossover from 1 hour to the other. You will see that happen so often. Specifically, look for SMT on the 50-minute time frame. That'll give you 3 candles to look at: the 45, the 00, and the 15. Look for consecutive candle SMT, look for previous day SMT. Just find SMT using those 3 candles, and then dig into lower time frames, and you'll see your setup right there in your lap.
Right on. Perfect. Okay, well, um, I think that's good. What do you think, Kev?
I think that's good.
All right. Perfect. Okay, guys, we'll let you off early. We didn't even make the 90 minutes. We got through a lot of good info. You guys have some homework. Now, I want you guys to go enjoy your Sunday. We have a very busy news week this coming week, so make sure you're fresh, ready to rock and roll. We will have a weekly review posted probably today if it hasn't been posted yet. Jamie is taking care of that this week, so he'll find someone. I'm not sure who's doing it, but we will know shortly. I'll post this onto WAP as soon as Colorado gets me the rendered version, and then I'll notify you guys when it is posted. Should be by today for sure. So with all that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Had quite a few members joining here. I think we had upwards of 75, 80 at a certain point. So we really appreciate you guys tuning in and putting in the work. It means a lot to us that you guys care so much about your education, and it really pushes us to want to provide you guys with even more value every time. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for being so attentive and asking proper questions, and we will leave it there. So enjoy your Sunday, and we will chat soon. Thanks again, Colorado. This was awesome, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Fucking A. Right on. Okay, we'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.